I just want to say I am very grateful for each and every one of you that was able to make it out. I know that some of you are already involved to some capacity, have been doing this longer than I've been here. I love that. Some of you maybe have been looking for the opportunity to get involved, and you saw this and you thought, oh, this is perfect, I'll be there. And some of you may have just decided to pop over this morning because of the announcement that we made, and you're like, hey, I would love more information. So you're here, and I am grateful for each one of you. I do want to, again, highlight, he's already said, I mentioned a little bit this morning, but the Connections ministry is just that. It's a ministry, and it's a vital one at that, as he already said. Sometimes people make the decision on whether or not they're going to come back. Actually, a lot of times, people make the decision on whether or not they're going to come back or not based on the first impression they get before they even get into the worship service. So this is a ministry. It has the potential to have huge impact on people. And I want to say as well that this is not a ministry that's specific to Sunday mornings. So I'm going to be specifically, yes, talking about some practicalities in terms of how this applies and positions and things that we can fill on Sunday mornings, but this can be applied to any ministry. So if you're another pastor in the room, or if you've got different ministries, some of these basic fundamental principles apply across the board. So good things, you'll be learning good things today. Just across the board. Again, as Pastor Dan or Dad already explained, my name is Cameron. I am the Connections Coordinator. I've been doing it for the last 3-ish months now. Been absolutely loving it. Been doing other things as well, a little bit of local outreach. Some of you guys were a part of some of the local outreach that we've already done, but I'm just, because of the deep roots that I've had here growing up and all of the ministry opportunities and all these insights that I've gained, I really do have such a vested interest in the health and wellness and continued growth of this church. And so I'm just really grateful to be a part of what we're doing here and helping see that through. So, I mean, I won't get into everything, who I am, what I'm about. Sure, a little bit. I know he shared a little bit just now, but for those of you who don't know, again, grew up here my entire life. I mean, they got married here, for goodness sake. So I have been here for a long time, but took a 5-year hiatus to move down to Columbus. I got a 4-year degree from an Assemblies of God university called Southeastern. I got my 4-year degree in ministerial leadership, but it also had a focus on pastoral care and counseling. So again, my heart is just for people. I want to serve people in whatever capacity that might look like. And then the last 2 years that I was there, I was actually working for the school, doing some enrollment and admissions things, which really helped me on this public speaking edge of things. You know, I'm just constantly trying to sell the school, going to college fairs and going to different events and setting up a booth and talking and giving out information. And so it was really cool. I gained a lot of valuable insights from all of that. And I want to highlight that in my time, my 5 years in Columbus, I had the opportunity to do internships, to visit, to attend, to be involved in, I can't even tell you how many churches. I lost count. Because of the nature of the degree that I was going for, I was actually earning credit to go and see the behind the scenes of these different churches. So I want to say that up front, not to at all say that I've got it all figured out, because goodness, I do not. I just turned 24, and I don't think that's old yet. So I want to just say that I have learned a lot. And while I did end up back here at Calvary, my goodness, have I gotten lots of insights and behind the scenes things, insights for not even things specific to, not limited to first impressions, if that makes sense. I mean, I interned with kids ministries and youth ministries, and yes, first impressions. I did lay counseling at a church. I did all kinds of things and really got to see the behind the scenes and what works and what doesn't, systems, all of those things. So all that to say, I am just so excited to be back here, and I'm so grateful for the heart and the ministry of all of you guys who, whether you serve or not, I can't tell you how many times I hear people say just how deeply they feel the authenticity of those in our church, how much they feel welcomed and warm and appreciated, and wow, this feels like a family, when they've only been coming for, maybe it was their first time visit, or they've been coming for about a month. So I just want to thank you guys again, even if you're not a part of this ministry yet. You guys do such a good job, and I felt that as well. I mean, when I would come and visit from Columbus, my goodness, I would always just, not to dog any other church I was at, because they were all great, but I could just feel it to a deeper level when I was here. So I was so excited to come back. I was not anticipating working here, but they extended the invitation, and I gratefully accepted, because there's just no place like home. So,
thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I should say this.
Oh, go.
She had other churches asking her to work for them, but we got her.
Yes, yeah, so I do want to say too, it's not just because, you know, my family is here, whether on staff or not. I have a lot of family here, if you don't know that. But no, the authenticity of this church just runs so deep. Authenticity in the worship services from start to finish, the actual worship, the messages, again, the relational dynamics between just the regular congregants, volunteers. So again, just thank you guys for everything that you do, and the ways that you're intentional with the Lord and keeping the main thing. I feel like that's what really stuck out, is Calvary just understands the why behind the what. We want to help people consider Jesus in every walk of their life, at every portion of their faith walk, and you guys get that. So let me just, you were gonna pray. You didn't pray.
You can do it.
How dare you?
I mean, keep from them.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we're gonna get started here in a second. I'm gonna go ahead and pray, and I want to say really quick too, all of you should have two different pieces of paper in front of you. One of them, the little half sheet, we're going to get to at the end, so you can kind of set that one aside for now. The other one is a notes sheet. So all of you have something to take notes on if you desire. You should all have a pen as well. We have extras if you need one. The one side is a fill in the blank. That's going to be in correlation with a video we're going to watch in a little bit. The second video, we got two videos. So for now, if you want to flip it over, there's like a general notes side. Feel free to take notes as we go. And I mean, there's not a quiz after this. It's just, we're here to learn, right? So before we get into that first video, I want to go ahead and pray and officially kick us off, if that's all right. Good? All right. Lord, I just thank you so much for this opportunity to, as I've already said, serve at this church in whatever capacity, whether it's connections or outreach, or even if it's just I'm here on a Sunday morning, Lord. I'm just so grateful that you allow me the opportunity to serve your people and love your people. God, each and every life that walks into this church is a gift from you. I pray that you would just allow us to approach this information and these topics, Lord, with open eyes and open hearts and soften hearts, Lord God, just to give us fresh perspective and light a new fire inside of us, because it's more than just numbers. It's about lives being saved for your honor and glory, Jesus. So be with us in this time, Lord, and bless this food. We didn't pray, but bless this food, and in your name we pray. Amen. So this video, it's about 1.5 minutes long, little hokey, but bear with it, okay?
What are you doing here? This morning, and my kids couldn't do anything. They couldn't find their shoes. They couldn't find their coats. It took all morning. I'm lucky I even made it to church. Oh! What's up, buddy?
Hey.
How you been, man? We haven't seen you in forever. It's good to see you. That was awesome. Did you see the game the other night?
I did. We're so close, but I mean, it just broke my heart that they lost.
I had to kill you. You had to be up all night.
Crazy, but I mean, you're... Hey, how you doing? So what do you do?
Welcome to Bethel. Who are you? Are you new? Never seen you before.
Hey, how you doing? Are you new here?
I think I've seen you before.
You look different.
Are you new?
I'm the pastor.
All right, so a little bit hokey, right? It looks like it's from another church, so shout out to that church that let us borrow that. It should be good if you just set it up here. Perfect. One of the legs adjusts if you want to try to figure it out. Yeah, stuff. All right, so we're going to talk about this video here in a second, but before I do, I just want to make a quick comment. Two things, actually. Some of you, you're on the team, and you're watching that video, and you're like, those are don'ts? I'm gonna refer to these as the do's and don'ts, okay? You're like, they said that, and I say that all the time. We're gonna address some of this in a little bit, okay? So everybody take a deep breath. It's all gonna be okay. But the other thing, some of you may be thinking, that was all about door greeters, and I'm more introverted, and I don't want to stand at a door and have to talk to people, and I just want to smile and wave, smile and wave. There are positions for you as well, okay? So don't be intimidated by this. Like I said, there's just kind of some general practicalities that are good to keep in mind, but there are going to be varying opportunities as well, which, let me say, before we actually get into this, in a little bit, on the tail end of this meeting, I'm going to actually get into some of the specifics of what goes into the various ministries within the Connections ministries that we offer. But I want to kind of at least get them on your radar now so that you can start to process and think, kind of place yourself in some of these and see how they might fit for you. Does that make sense? So I'm going to just kind of throw them out there for now. We're going to talk about do's, don'ts, some practicalities, and then at the end, I'm going to kind of come back to, okay, here's what we're going to offer. You can kind of see and decipher what fits best for you, if any. Sound good? Okay, so we have 8 different opportunities. Some of you might be like, no, we don't. We are rolling out several new Connections ministry opportunities. So, you'll see them actually on this sheet, the little half sheet, because at the end you're going to mark which ones you're interested in. But number one, a brand new one, is our parking team. So some of you may have been to churches who do this, but we are going to implement a parking team. Again, I'll get into a little bit more of what that looks like on the second end of this meeting. But parking team, we're going to have the exterior door greeters, which we already have in place. Those are the people who hand us our bulletins every Sunday morning. The Connect Center, that's always been around. The coffee counter, yes, that is a part of this ministry as well. So if you're interested in that, we gotcha. 2 additional new ones are what we're calling the foyer floater or the foyer greeter, and then the worship center floater and greeter. Basically, these are people who are just on the prowl looking for new people. They're not tied down to any station. They're just constantly looking for new people that they can connect with. Those are probably the 2 most, if you will, extroverted positions. We have the interior door greeters, which is kind of new, but people who will be standing at the worship center doors, greeting people, kind of a second level of hospitality there. And then lastly is the safety team. And yes, again, the safety team is a part of this ministry. Again, we'll go into a little bit more of what each of these roles look like in a little bit. But for now, let's get back to this video. So we just watched a video that was highlighting a bunch of, if you will, what not to do's when it comes to first impressions in the Connections ministry. And so what I kind of want to do is I don't want to just stand up here and talk, but I would love a little bit of class participation, if you will. So what I'm hoping to do, as you can see already, on the left side of this whiteboard, I basically paraphrased, but all of the 9 don'ts that video highlighted for us, okay? Might be a little bit hard to see. We're going to talk about each one. Again, if you want to take notes, write things down as we go, feel free to do that. But for some of these, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on maybe why these are maybe classified as don'ts and what we can do instead to welcome people better. Fair? Good? We tracking? All right. So the first don't first no-no was, what are you doing here? This was the only one, honestly, on this list that I was like, I can't even picture why you would say. Some of these, honestly, I've caught myself saying some of these. So we have all done this. But this one, I was like, I don't think I've ever asked somebody what they're doing here. Does anybody have any thoughts what we could say instead of approaching somebody and saying, hey, what are you doing here? What's something that we could say instead?
Happy to have you here.
Perfect. So good to see you. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
Introduce yourself.
Perfect. Yep. So you guys get it, right? You want to jot up there whatever you're. So glad you're here.
I'm gonna say great to see you.
Great to see you. Sure. All right, let's move on. Number 2, who are you? And of course, in the video, he kind of made it sound like more mean than he needed to. But going up to somebody and saying, who are you? What's maybe a better way to do that?
Can I know a little bit about yourself?
Can I know more about you? That's good. Anybody else? Instead of who are you, some thoughts? Just introduce yourself. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is overarching, right? They're going to kind of apply to each, but. Oh, that's good. I like that one. You could also say, who are you? Again, great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I'm not sure we've met. That's great. Number 3, are you new? Huh? One.
Have we met? Is that what we said?
Yeah, have we met? Perfect. All right, number 3 is probably the hardest one for me. Honest, and I don't know for any of you, but for me personally, it just rolls off the tongue. Are you new? Because for us, it's like the obvious question, right? We're here every week, we see somebody we don't recognize, automatically we're like, oh, are you new? But that's actually not the right way to do things. Because I'm going to keep saying this, but sometimes our best intentions are not received the way that we mean them to. Does that make sense? So, like you saw in the video, I might go up to somebody and say, are you new? And they're like, no, I've been coming here for 5 years. And then it's like, oh, ouch, okay, so you haven't noticed me in 5 years. That kind of hurts. But if they are new, even if you go up to them and you're like, hey, are you new? And they are new, they might be like, oh man, I'm sticking out like a sore thumb. I knew I shouldn't have come. You just never know how that's gonna hit somebody, right? So instead of saying, are you new? Any thoughts what we could say instead?
How long have you been here?
How long have you been coming? That's great. Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
What about which way are you headed?
Which way are you headed? That could be taken a few different ways.
So broader than narrow.
Yeah, right. Are you going this way down the hallway, that way, up or down? Yes. So asking people, how long have you been attending? What's your name? Yeah. Number 4. Let's keep moving. I've never seen you before. So instead of, oh, DeAndre's got one. Instead of saying, I've never seen you before.
Well, I've got a question.
Oh, sure, hit it.
So by asking how long have you been attending, does that imply that you think they haven't been there that long?
You think?
I don't know.
I don't think necessarily.
Okay, well, how about the question, have I met you before?
That works too.
Just introduce
I met
yourself. You should say, welcome to Calvary. I've never met you. My name's
Yeah,
Joe.
they never met.
And then it opens up a door of conversation.
Sure. Yeah. See, I love this dialogue. I love it. I love it.
And the same applies to 4 too.
What was that?
The same applies to number 4 too, like we haven't met before.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, you'll see there's kind of some overlap with a lot of these, but you'll learn, there's kind of just like a general rhythm that you kind of get into that never fails. So let's move on to number 5. I've got a little bit more talking points on this. So holy huddles, you guys might not know what that means. I want to explain to you what that means. Holy huddles is the indication that when we're serving on a Sunday morning, we automatically cling to our friends, other visitors, the people that we know, right? We call it holy huddles because we're all Christians. We've got this established relationship, right? It's easy. It's natural, right? It's spending the majority of time with people who aren't guests. So I just want to say, when we show up on a Sunday and we're serving in this capacity specifically, we're here to serve, right? We're on a mission, and that number one mission is to make the guests our priority. So when we're serving, hear me right, we're not here to talk to other volunteers. We're not even here to necessarily talk to other regular attenders. The guest is the priority. Of course, if there's a lull and service hasn't really, people haven't really started coming in yet, and, Pastor Dan and we're greeting at the front door, it's okay if we talk. You don't have to be that locked in that you're like, okay, you stand there, you stand straight ahead, we'll wait. It doesn't have to be that serious, but it's being intentional. It's remembering why you're here, what you're doing, and keeping the guest the priority. So one of the books that I read by pastor and author Tom Rainer, Becoming a Welcoming Church, he says this. He says, the goal is not to break up fellowship groups, right? We should be a friendly, talk to everybody kind of church. The goal is to give church members, so us, the awareness that the vast majority of guests feel like they are intruding on a party to which they were not invited. That hits, right? I mean, if you think about it, picture yourself as a guest and you're walking into a church for the first time, and maybe you've been contemplating coming for a long time, and you finally mustered up the courage and you've come, you showed up, and you walk in, and yeah, maybe the first person you see at the front door, says good morning, but then you walk in and there's a group of people over there and there's a group of people over there, and nobody takes the time to come up to you and say, hey, good morning. I'm not sure we've met. My name is Cameron. It's nice to meet you. It feels like high school all over again, right? It feels like the first day of school, like, oh my gosh, everybody has friends and I don't know anybody, and kind of puts you on the spot, right? Which can be detrimental to a person when they're trying to get plugged into a church. So the idea of holy huddles is the priority is the guest, right? It's not neglecting your friends completely. It's just making sure you keep the main thing the main thing. All right, that makes sense? Still good? We're still awake? Okay, cool. Number 6 is having conversations in the doorway. Pretty simple. If you're gonna have a conversation with somebody, even if they are brand new, try to take it off to the side, right? We don't wanna block the entire entryway and then maybe affect somebody else's experience when they're trying to come into the church, especially if it's cold. Like right now, yeah, don't be in that doorway longer than you have to be. Get off to the side, help people stay warm, all that kind of stuff. Thank you for doing that.
Can I make a comment too?
Yes, please.
I think, because I am one of those people, I would feel intimidated.
Sure.
If there were 3 people attacking me at the same time.
Yep.
I would just want one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys will see when I get into a little bit more of the details of what these different positions offer. I said it earlier, but not every one of these roles, if you will, volunteer positions, require the most extroverted person, because we don't want people to be absolutely bombarded when they come in. You know what I mean? We want to be authentic and we want to be real and we want people to feel welcomed, but we also don't want them to feel like they're being attacked every 10 steps they take. Hey, I'm not sure we've met. Hey, I'm not sure we've met. And before they know it, they're like, oh my goodness. So we'll get into it in a little bit, but yes, no, I appreciate that. Yes, please.
What about those people who come maybe for the first or the second time? Let's say the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to talk to anybody. If people like that, they just want to come and then, because some people sometimes come to church and talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Just gonna sneak in, sit down somewhere on the end, and then stay. And sometimes when it's time to go, just gonna walk back here. Leave.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of people like that. Our society, our culture is very get in, get out without being seen. That's how they are. And so being intentional with some of these positions and trying to set us up in a way that puts us in between those people who want to get in and get out, but also respecting people's space too. We want to respect, right? We're not here to just throw our agenda on people and attack people with bear hugs when they come in and you're with us now. People react to things differently, right? So a guest might come in and they might be really grateful. Anise, you come up and you're like, oh, I don't think we've met. And they might totally lean into that. And yeah, I would love for you to show me around. Thank you so much. They might totally love that. you might encounter somebody else who's like, why are you talking to me? You know, like I want to go sit down. That's okay too. We want to respect people where they're at, but we want to at least do our part so they can't ever have the excuse that nobody talked to them. If they don't want to talk to people, that's okay, but at least we know we held up our end of the bargain. Make sense? Yeah. So again, it's that respect thing. We want to make sure that we're treating people with respect, and if they're like, yeah, no, I can show myself around, okay, great, it's nice to meet you. That's all you got to do. All right, let's hit these last two, or three actually. Number 7 is pretty simple. Phone usage. Obviously, we're not your parents. We're not going to say we don't want to see those phones. We'll take them away. But obviously, common sense, right? Keep it away. Keep the guest your priority. Of course, if you want to show somebody a picture of your grandkid, that's fine. You know, if somebody's calling you and it's an emergency, that's fine. Just don't be, common sense. Don't be scrolling on social media. Oh, hey, good morning. Again, common sense. Number 8, the insensitive questions and assumptions. So it's like I said before, sometimes our best intentions are not received the way that we want them to, right? So assumptions are never good. We never want to, hey, are you due? That was kind of extreme. Oh man. But yeah, just in general, we don't want to assume things for a while. Even somebody, let's say they do come to our church and you haven't seen them for a long time, oh, is everything okay? They might be like, yeah, everything's fine. Why are you, you know what I mean? We want to just make sure that we ask open-ended questions. That's the solution to number 8, is asking open-ended questions, never assuming anything about anybody, letting them offer information to us. And then we work off of that, right? We ask an open-ended question. Oh, what have you been got going on lately? They'll tell you. Oh, really? Tell me more about that. Just letting them talk, asking open-ended questions. It's always a good thing to keep in mind. The last point, actually, the over-the-top mentality. This one can be tough because as we kind of just addressed a little bit, in our minds, we're thinking we want to help people feel the most plugged in and we want to give them like VIP treatment and all these things, right? But sometimes our good intentions, we think we're doing everything that this person wants us to do, right? Sometimes that can actually be conceived as phony or like desperate, if that makes sense. Yeah, you got me, we're here. So instead of going over the top, it's actually very simple. It's just treating guests like they're a part of our family, right? It's using lingo that they would understand. It's, we don't want to throw too much at them where they don't know what we're talking about and they're like, oh yeah, I should not have come. It's very simple. It's the things we've been talking about. Hey, it's great to see you. Hey, have we met? My name is so-and-so. But even if it's not that, it's eye contact. It's a smile. I think the statistic is that a person can pick up a smile up to 30 feet away. That's not even my notes. I'm pretty sure that's the statistic. So even if somebody's all the way over on the other side of the room, if I smile, I don't even have to wave, but if I smile and wave, they feel that. That goes a long way. So very simple things. We don't have to give people VIP treatment. If they're leaning into it, hey, great. But start small and see how people work off of that. All right, let's see, where are we at? We're gonna be transitioning here in a second. Yeah, as I've said, I don't want anybody to be scared of what I'm saying, intimidated. I don't want anybody to think that every position that we're offering, if you're gonna be a part of the Connections ministry, I don't want you to think that you have to be the most extroverted person in the world. You don't. If you are willing and able, if you're able to offer those bare minimum things that I just said, if you're willing to say, hey, good morning, it's good to see you. If you're willing to smile and wave, we do have a spot for you. So please, don't be intimidated by any of this. Again, don't be offended by any of this either. I'm not in any way trying to call anybody out. As I said, I think our church does a fantastic job with a lot of these things. But reminders, right? Good reminders. So if you want to grab a picture of this, you are more than welcome. We're actually going to be going into that second video here in a second, which is going to actually highlight a lot of the things that we just talked about. It's more the positive aspect of things. So this actually, the second video that we're going to watch is the fill in the blank side of your notes sheet. So if you are ready, you can flip your sheet over, and the video starts quick. It goes through things pretty quick. So, yes, yeah, right. You're not even going to be able to follow. Yes.
If you don't mind my interjecting something.
Yes, please.
Over the top, as some of you know, I used to lead this. So the one thing that people don't really, you don't have to be overly religious. But
Yeah.
Over the top of it, oh, praise God, it's a glorious day to Lord Jesus. I hope you're, feeling blessed today. Thank you for being here.
That's good.
Easter Sunday, praise the Lord. We didn't have to do that. We're just normal.
Yeah.
Just don't be so pushy with the Lord too that you
Yeah.
just want to have somebody be eased in. Maybe they're not saved.
Right.
So we're normal. We're not weird. One of the strangest things I used to be in is a crazy church, and they wanted to be over the top and with their Christianity, and that made people want to leave, not stay.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to be welcoming, right? Not crazy.
Yeah. That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
So if Michelle comes up to you on a Sunday morning and you're serving and she's like, just act normal already, you'll know it. Please be normal.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments anybody wants to make? I don't want to rush over anybody either.
You should have said we have a quiz. Here's what
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No. Seriously though, be ready because he flies through these 5 points really quick. They should be pretty simple. Should be pretty common sense. The fill in the blanks here, but yeah. I mean, he jumps right into the first one. So if you're ready.
Number one, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. So we want to concentrate on first impression, right? We want to make them feel at ease. Guests don't want to come out and they don't want to be pressured to give money for the first time or to join a small group or to sign up for a volunteer team, right? They're there and they simply want to connect. Every single guest who comes through the door of your church is looking for some type of connection. So let's focus on personal connection and making sure that they meet plenty of warm, friendly people. And here's a pro tip. 80% of people who meet the pastor on their first visit will come back for a second visit, right? So train the people in your church that if they identify a first-time guest and they're talking to somebody, don't just strike up a conversation and then let them leave. Make sure that they find you as the pastor and they introduce all first-time guests to you. Because again, 80% of first-time visitors who meet you as the pastor on the first visit will come back for a second visit. So start training your staff, your leaders, and all of your volunteers. When they meet a first-time visitor, one of the first things they need to do is find you and make sure those visitors meet you. All right, number two, first impression. Now, the hard truth is that the impression you make up front will actually determine whether or not the guest comes back again. And this happens long before the service is over. In fact, most guests make a decision on whether or not they're ever going to come back again before your sermon even starts. Right? Which is crazy and kind of hard to hear. So you work all week long, spending hours on your sermon, and all of these first-time visitors have already decided whether or not they're going to bring their family back next Sunday before you even get a chance to preach, because it all has to do with first impression. So we want to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward, that we have warm, friendly people greeting all of the guests. Number three, don't treat them like VIP, treat them like family. Now, I've seen a lot of churches, whether it's Plan Your Visit or whether it's a VIP program or a red carpet program or some type of guest assimilation program, and they try to roll out everybody and treat them like rock stars. But listen, this is the opposite of what people are looking for. Remember, they're looking for connection. They want to meet other people. They're not coming in looking to be treated like a VIP. They want to be treated like family. So one of the best things you can do is just have laid back, friendly volunteers who are connecting with your guests and just treat them like family. Treat them the way you would if you'd been praying for your best friend for years to come to church and then one Sunday they actually showed up and brought their family. You wouldn't treat that person like a rock star and roll out the red carpet, right? You'd treat them like family. You'd take them behind the scenes, introduce them to the pastor, and you'd introduce them to all the key staff and leaders and give them a tour of the building, right? That's what people are looking for. Not VIP, they're looking for family. Okay, so before I get to my last couple of points, will you share this video? Right? Any pastors or church leaders that you know are trying to grow their church and retain more visitors, just send them this video so we can reach as many people as humanly possible. All right, number four, be enthusiastic but authentic. right? So a lot of times in guest assimilation, it's easy to either be self-deprecating, right? And start talking about, oh, it's not normally like this. Like normally it's not so dirty, or we're renovating over here. We usually have more people, but it's spring break. Don't point out all the things that are wrong. Don't be self-deprecating. Don't say anything negative, right? But don't be over the top excited either. Like, man, this is the best church on the face of the planet. I'm telling you, like, the sermons are so relevant. It's the best music ever, right? Just be authentic. Be excited. Everyone's excited about their church. Be excited, but be authentic. Train your volunteers to have conversations and to ask guests about them and not talk about themselves, right? You want to make sure that you're positioning yourselves as Yoda, the guide, and you're making the guest the center of the attention. They're Luke Skywalker, right? So instead of talking about you and talking about the church and all the things you have for the church, ask about them. In fact, one of the most powerful questions you can ever ask someone is, hey, so tell me your story. People love to talk about themselves and they love to talk about their story. And by saying something open-ended like that, you'll give them the chance to share as much or as little as they're comfortable with. But now they're talking about themselves, and now you can connect with them on an emotional level. And finally, number 5, never ask someone if they're new. Right? So this is a great practice, because if somebody isn't new and you say, hey, what's up? Is this your first time? Well, they might be offended. They might say, no, I've been going here for 5 years, man. Like, what the heck? Right? So maybe they just haven't been for a while, and now you just made them feel super awkward on the first Sunday that they came back. Right? So you never want to ask someone if they're new. And if they actually are new, then they're going to start worrying that they're sticking out like a sore thumb, right? Like, oh my gosh, I knew I didn't wear the right thing, or I just look weird or awkward, or shoot, everyone knows that I'm not supposed to be here, or that my life isn't as cleaned up as it should be, right? You don't ever want to isolate anyone, whether they're not new or whether they are. So one of the best things to do if you think someone is new is just go up and introduce yourself. Say, hey, my name's Chris. I don't think we've met yet, right? And start talking to people and just strike up a conversation. This is one of the easiest ways to get a chance to get into a conversation and get to know people. Just introduce yourself. Hey, I don't think we've met yet. What's up? My name's Chris. What's your name? And then it can easily lead into a question like, man, how long have you been going to the church? Right? Then if people have been going 5 years, they can tell you that. And if it's their first time, they'll tell you that too. But this is a much easier way than just coming up and saying, hey, are you new? Don't offend people that have been around for a while or make visitors stick out like a sore thumb. Just introduce yourself and then ask them how long they've been going to the church.
So yeah, I wanted to just kind of show you that as well, because if I'm going to show you a video that highlights negatives, I also want to show you a video that highlights positives, right? We're not going to fully dive into that video because it's kind of a recap of what we just talked about, right? Just kind of reemphasizes the positive things that were on this side of the board that we talked about, but hopefully you were able to get most of those fill in the blanks. Anybody miss any? I told you it's pretty simple. Look at you guys. Stars all around. All right, so again, let me say, I feel like our team just does such a phenomenal job with all of these things already. I just really appreciate you guys. And honestly, we don't have too much left in terms of like real meat of conversation, but we're gonna get into the roles of what everything looks like here in a little bit. But before I do, I just wanna share some other facts, some other perspectives that I feel like the Lord just really like laid on my heart as I was doing research, as I've been just getting really into this role here at Calvary. And just hope that it kind of inspires you and stirs something up in you as it did for me. So I'm gonna refer back to first the book that I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's Becoming a Welcoming Church by Pastor Tom Rainer. So this book, as it says in the title, it's all about becoming a welcoming church, right? Different things that we can do to help our presence and help our connections teams and all from start to end, our facilities, how we can make it welcoming to people. But he makes a comment on the very first chapter, second page of the book that just hit me so hard. He says this, he says, many church leaders and members think their churches are 3 different things. He says they think their churches are healthier than they really are. He says they think they have better ministries than they really do. And they think that they are more friendly than they really are. And I was like, man, I feel like we do okay. But I mean, he's a pastor of a very large church and helps other churches get started, church plants and different things like that. And I was like, man, that's really interesting. So it caused me pause. And you know, we read this book actually together as a staff when I first came on, and we finished it around the end of the year, right around Christmas. And that was a big, like I said, wake-up call for me. It's the idea of continual evaluation, not becoming complacent in what we do. This, of course, can go for a lot of different areas, not just the Connections ministry, but obviously it's included in that as well. And actually later on, he continues by saying that in the vein of reevaluation, rhythms and routines at a church should be considered quarterly. Quarterly. I was like, man, that seems like a lot, but it's true, because when we have new people coming in and things just continue to evolve in the world around us, we should be evolving with it and taking into consideration what's working, what's not working. Again, in the aspect of this ministry, but as the church as a whole. And he says as well, just above all else, when you're evaluating, keeping the guest perspective in the forefront of your minds. As Michelle actually said a few minutes ago before we watched that video, it's really important to remember that the guests who are coming through our doors may not be Christ followers. Some of them may, but a majority may not. And dare I even say, I pray that the majority are not. Because, Jesus, what he came here to do, right? To save the lost. Yeah, he says in Matthew chapter 9, he says it's not the wealthy who need a physician, but the sick, right? Are we making sure that we are a welcoming church that's ready to accommodate such people without intimidation? Are we using words that they're going to understand? I've already said some of this, but are we meeting them where they're at? Are we setting up our facility in a way that's inviting and not intimidating? Just helping keep these thoughts in our minds. How are things being perceived? And listen, it can be so easy to get frustrated with the world around us, right? Unchurched people who don't know Christ. I get it. But let's not forget what the church is here for. Amen? Pastor Rayner, he says this. He says, many Christians view the church as a fortress to keep us away from the pagan culture around us. We do things the way we've always done them because we find our comfort and security in them. But we stopped reaching people. We're more concerned about our comfort, our fortress, and our desires that we no longer are a church. He says we have to remember it's about serving rather than being served. So good. In another book, it's called Fusion. It's by another pastor. He pastors a church in New York City. His name is Nelson Searcy. He wrote a book called Fusion. It's all about helping first-time guests through the pipeline to become fully engaged followers of Christ. He writes this. He says, the majority of people who visit a church do not come to faith in Christ on their first visit, or their second visit, or their third visit. He says, instead, continued interaction with God's people, teaching from the Bible, and involvement in volunteer opportunities all work together to open unchurched hearts to the good news of Jesus Christ. They all work in tandem. The bottom line is that when non-Christians feel welcomed and respected, they return. Not even non-Christians, anybody. But in general, when people feel welcomed and respected, they return. On top of that, when we're friendly and we offer authenticity, they return. You might have said this in the beginning. I don't remember, but he addresses another statistic in his book, Pastor Searcy does. He says, did you know that the typical church guest decides whether or not they will return again after just the first 7 minutes upon their arrival? 7 minutes. That's how much a first impression means to somebody. That's how vital this ministry is. It's before any portion of the service begins, before a song is sung, before the sermon is preached, before they have a chance to respond. That's what you were saying before. It's the way that we make people feel completely sets up their heart posture for the way that the Lord's going to speak to them through the message and through the worship. Make sense? It's so important. It's the heart behind what we do. We want others to consider Jesus and pursue a relationship with him. So, I have a little bit of a visual here for you, and you guys have this on the bottom of your notes sheet as well, this arrow. Mine, I didn't make mine as blocky as the one that you guys have, but here's this arrow, okay? Anybody who attends a church, they start down here at this end as a first-time guest, right? And then, obviously, the goal, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but the goal is to become a member of the church. Of course, there's steps in between that, but I actually want to address that really quick. This is not what this meeting is about, but just so we're all on the same page, I do want to highlight that membership is important. And I'll tell you why. It's not because we want to add to our numbers for numbers' sake. It's for the accountability and responsibility that this adds to an individual's faith walk. Membership indicates that not only have they committed their lives to Jesus, but that they want to see the life of this particular church body grow and thrive. That's what membership is. So even if you don't have a clear picture on this, if you're in this room, that's what membership is. So maybe you're in the room and you aren't a member. I would love to encourage you to become one. If you have accepted Jesus and you're following him with your whole heart and you're plugged into this church and you're wanting to take next steps, become a member. We've actually got next steps coming up in February. We can talk about that afterwards. If you have questions, you can find me, find Pastor Dan. Also, don't hear me wrong though. You don't have to be a member in order to participate in this ministry. As I said today, this ministry can be for young, it can be for old, it can be for people who've been here for 3 weeks, 30 years, it doesn't matter. But I do want you guys to understand where we're coming from. The goal is to help people take responsibility for their faith. Obviously, baptism is the outward expression of their faith in Christ. Membership is the outward expression of their commitment to this church. Yeah. That's all that means. Just so we're on the same page. We tracking still? Yeah. Okay. So, as I said, guests, anytime anybody comes to a church, they obviously start all the way over here, their first time guest. The goal is to get them plugged in to the church. But there's steps in the meantime. They obviously have to be a second time guest, then they become a regular attender, and then hopefully they take steps to be a member. However, there's gaps in the process where at any point in time, a guest can fall off and we lose them and they don't come back. There's 3 buzzwords, if you will, that help bridge the gap to help people get from point A to point B. And I want you to jot them down. You've got spots for this. So the first one, it's return, which is what a huge part of what this ministry does. We are here to help the first impression, to get people to, hook, line, and sinker, right? We want to get people on the line and we want them to return, right? That's number 1. Number 2, I could be writing these in. Why not? So in case anybody misses it, return. The second one is relationships. They're all ours. Number 2, relationships. This means, this also applies to us actually in the Connections ministry. Not only do we want to be friendly and welcoming to them, but a huge part of this ministry is getting them connected to other people. So, hey, I'm not sure we've met before. My name is Cameron. What's your name? Oh, nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. They tell me that they're here for the first time. And I'm noticing as they're talking that it's a young family, right? Maybe they've got a toddler and they've got a baby in arms. And in my mind, as they're talking, obviously I'm listening to what they're saying, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, who else in this church is in a similar life season that I could potentially introduce them to if I see them? Or even if I'm not going that far, I would love to introduce them to Pastor Dan or any pastor in general, because the more people that we get new people connected with, the more value it adds to them. The more they feel like they're a part and they're included. Relationships is a huge second key to helping people stay connected. Number 3 is responsibility. Jot this down really quick. Responsibility. This is actual involvement on the guest's part. So this could take a couple different forms. This could be coming to a group, coming to an event, getting involved in a growth group, coming to young adults on a Sunday, Wednesday night. This could be getting involved in a ministry. And this is such a great ministry for that. This is such an easy bridge for people who are newer to our church or are just looking for a little way to get connected, because this is such a simple, flexible ministry, truthfully. Again, we'll get into it in a little bit. But yeah, if you think about it, this ministry is, if I'm thinking right, the only ministry that we offer that doesn't require really anything from anybody. You don't need to be a member to be involved. You don't have to have been here for a certain amount of time. You don't need any sort of background checks. If you want to serve, you don't need to be a super religious person to be able to open a door for somebody. right? And that way it gets people to own their faith. It gets them to own and take responsibility for their faith, right? They're putting hands to their faith. So, yeah, just some, you guys all write this in? You good? Actually, I don't need to erase this. Never mind. I'm gonna leave it up. Does anybody have any questions before I move on? Any, or thoughts for that matter? Some of you, again, maybe you've been involved and you've seen this. Anybody have a testament to this, actually? Anybody, has anybody seen this play out? They've seen somebody just show up and get involved in relationships and then, you know, responsibility and all these different aspects? Yeah, Marlene.
Well, one of the first people we met when we came was Joe. And his personable, authentic, and sincere.
They didn't stop us from coming
But he was consistent. He followed up. It wasn't just words, and he followed it up with action and prayer. And
That's great.
he's consistent in that even to this day. So it's been, 3 years, and we're still not scared of him, so.
No, he can find you over to your house.
Yeah, he was
I love that.
allowed in. The dog let him in the house.
That's right. That's right.
That's so funny.
Yes.
I love that. No, that's perfect right there. I mean, there's an example of somebody who's a part of our church and how much that first impression meant to them. Anybody else before we switch gears and kind of, yes, please.
I have an opposite experience when we first came
Oh,
here.
yeah, please.
It was 13 years ago, 14 years ago. We walked in the church and nobody greeted us. It was really weird. But the person that brought us to church she never met the pastor, but she brought us here because she said it was a fun church. You should come. So we came, the first thing that we saw in the foyer was the boxes, the shoe boxes that we knew in Cameroon. We were involved in that ministry.
Yeah.
And you and I look at each other and we say, oh, this is a sign that God wants us here. Nobody spoke to us. And we came weeks after weeks. We never met the pastor. I'm not pointing at anything.
Yeah.
But through the years it got better because I believe we started meeting leaders, church leaders, maybe after 15, 16 time coming. So it matters what you say.
Yeah.
It matters. If we didn't have the deep conviction that is the church God is calling us to be in, we could have just walked away without anyone noticing who we are or what we are. So it matters.
It does.
I agree with what she was saying. That inside the church, not outside, inside the church, when we were there, is one person who was committed to walk around to come to say hi to us every single Sunday. He's the late Mr. Moore.
Yes, Mr. Motter.
He noticed us
He was
and
walking through and then come and say hi.
He was such a good guy.
Every Sunday.
Yeah, we love Dr. Motter. Yeah, it matters. It matters, absolutely. And again, it's helping people feel like family, right? I mean, we've said it time and time again, but it's the family dynamic. It's, you know, just treating you like you've been here forever, right? I mean, how far does that go, right? When you're just willing to take somebody under your wing and, hey, can I sit with you? Even something as simple as that goes so far. So, yeah, thank you for sharing. All right. I think, without any further ado, I would love to get into each of these serving opportunities, kind of explain, especially for the newer ones that we're rolling out, what they look like, and see if they might be a good fit for you. So I'm going to kind of walk through them as if I was a guest coming in to our parking lot for the first time on a Sunday morning, and kind of, walk you through how that would go, interactions and things. So if I'm a guest, I'm pulling in, the first team that they're going to encounter is our parking team, which again, brand new, we're rolling out. I'm super excited about this one. I know Safe is really excited about this one. But the parking team. And listen, we have a decently sized church, but we don't have a humongous church. So this isn't going to be any crazy like directing traffic and okay, you stop and you know, you don't have to like have some kind of license for this or anything crazy, right? In fact, this is one of those positions that as long as you're cool with being outside in the elements potentially, this is a very easy serving opportunity. This is, we're not necessarily asking you to engage in crazy conversations with people outside, as the Lord leads. I don't want to say it'll never happen, but this is very simple. It's waving at people as they drive in. It's good morning as they're walking inside. Good morning, it's good to see you. Very, very simple. We want to, of course, allow people to kind of get through the doors. We can address them inside and really get to know them. Again, as the Lord leads, if you really feel like you're prompted to go say something to somebody, by all means. But for anybody who might be a little bit more introverted in the room, this could be a really good spot for you. The only other thing that this might require on occasion is if you see one of our elderly friends who maybe just needs an extra arm to help them walk inside, or if it's raining, just a courtesy, like going running, grabbing an umbrella, meeting them outside and walking with them. I know John Pugh does that anyway, and Joe Tripepi does that on occasion too. So that's what a parking lot greeter is. It's more just to go the extra mile for our guests so that they see before they even enter the building that we want them to feel welcome. Make sense? Pretty simple? Cool. Number 2 is the exterior door greeters, which we already have. These are our friends who are posted up at the front doors. When the weather is nice, they're opening the doors for people. They're handing them their bulletins. They're saying, good morning, so glad to see you. Enjoy service, whatever it is that they say. But again, this is a very, it doesn't require necessarily the most extroverted energy person. Because of what we were talking about before, we don't want to clog up the entryway and start having all these deep conversations with people. Especially, imagine like a young family coming to church for the first time and they're intimidated and they're just trying to get in the doors. And as soon as they get in the doors, they've got all their coats on, their kids are crazy, and they don't want to be bombarded as soon as they enter. They haven't even made it to the foyer yet, right? So the exterior door greeters, our bulletins, very, very simple, straightforward. And then it brings us to number 3, which is our foyer floater, our foyer greeter, which is another new one. This, if anything, is probably for more of the extroverted type. The extroverted people will probably do well in this because, as I kind of mentioned before, this floater, it is their job. They're not assigned to a specific door or a specific table or anything. They are literally going to be floating around and they are eyes on the ground. They are waiting for the opportunity to spot somebody new so that they can go over and do the things that we're talking about, right? Of course, everybody at every position, smiling, eye contact, waving, all of those good things. But in terms of the actual conversation pieces, this is going to be huge for the foyer floater. Seeing somebody new. Hey, I'm not sure that we've met before. My name is Cameron. Feeling it out, right? If they're a little bit intimidated by that, say, hey, we've got a coffee bar here. Feel free to grab coffee. Enjoy service. You don't have to push it on them, but kind of feel it out. See how it goes. If they have kids, hey, would you mind? Are you going to drop your kids off at kids' church? We would love to take you down there. Let me just throw this in there as a side note. Taking people places goes a lot further than pointing and saying, oh yeah, if you go down there and it's around the corner, and we have a pretty large church, and honestly could be pretty easy for somebody to get lost. So taking that extra step, going the extra mile for people, taking them where they need to go. If you don't have an answer for somebody, find somebody who does have an answer. But that is the foyer floater. I'm really excited about this one, truly, I really am. Number 4 is the Connect Center. This is a role that we've had forever. It was previously known as the Welcome Center. We rebranded it as the Connect Center just because we rebranded the First Impressions team to the Connections Ministry. So Connections Ministry, Connect Center, we're the Connect team, just kind of rolled off better. But the Connect Center, this is an opportunity for anybody who maybe isn't necessarily wanting to go, if I can say this, out of their way and like chase people down necessarily, but they are ready and available at the Connect Center. They're stationed there for anybody who might have questions or want more information about the church. So if, let's say Joe is our foyer floater and he meets somebody new and they're like, yeah, I just have a lot of questions. I looked you guys up online and that's how I found you. And I was just looking for more information about like your values and things like that. Of course, if Joe knows it off the top of his head, he could share that with them. But he could also say, hey, come with me over to the Connect Center. We've actually got some resources that we'd love to get in your hands if you want to know more about that. And then he can introduce them to who's at the Connect Center and kind of pass them off to that person. Does that make sense? So that's a position that's really important. Just requires somebody who's well versed in what we do and who we are here at the church.
Hey, Cameron, can I just say?
Yeah,
so
please.
Just for clarity, the Connect Center, so it's actually a hybrid between, as Cameron said, the Welcome Center and the Meet the Pastor area. So
Yes.
if you notice the area by the windows where we have kind of set up to be the Meet the Pastor area, that is the Connect Center. And it's a merge between the Welcome Center, because in purpose they really merge. So the Connect Center is where people can meet us, as well as get information, like, and be stationed as well.
Yes. Yes, makes sense? We all on the same page? All right.
And we have signage that's going to be.
Thank you.
You'll know where the Connect. People will know what the Connect Center is, where it is, and the Info Center probably by next Sunday, right?
Hopefully. We're close. We're close, yeah. As I mentioned before, the coffee counter is also included in this ministry. So if you're really into like more the behind the scenes, you know, helping prep coffee before service, cleaning it up after service, keeping things restocked, if that mode of hospitality is your speed, that's all you. Of course, there can be some relational aspects to that too. We usually have somebody, at least one person, right, Lindsay, standing behind the coffee bar, the coffee counter. But that's a pretty fun and easy one too. I mean, you're right with the coffee. I mean, there's no better spot in my opinion. We're almost through these. So number 6 is, Gary agrees with that, I heard that laugh. So the interior door greeters. These are people that we would have stationed at the worship center doors on Sunday mornings. Is he in here, Jim Padden? He is, he's hiding back there. You guys may have seen that Jim often stands at the doors there. Part of the reason is because Jim is what we call an usher. And Jim is over our usher ministry, correct? He says, yeah. But we don't have too many ushers right now. Let me just say, this interior door greeter position, we are going to kind of hybrid with the usher position. Really, don't be intimidated by that. I know that the name usher has carried different meanings through the years, but as we were kind of talking about this, we're like, what does an usher do? What is the role of an usher? I mean, back in the day, it was passing the plates for communion, thank you. It would be, ushering people to their seats. It would be, what was the other thing I was going to say? Passing the plates. Different communion, that's what I was thinking. They would pass the plates for communion, things like that. But honestly, we don't do a whole lot of that anymore because we often have communion out in the foyer. We have, if as needed, I'm sure Jim will walk people to a seat. When we do communion Sundays, he'll bring the buckets down, make sure everybody's got there, right? So essentially what this interior door greeter is an usher. So if you're interested in this position, we'll get you connected with Jim and he can show you the ropes on that. But it's very simple. This is, again, a very simple one, not necessarily a whole lot of chit chat needed. It's, hey, good morning, good to see you. What we're probably gonna start implementing as well is, I mentioned communion, but instead of having a table out in the foyer for communion, the hope would be to have at least one door greeter at each worship center entrance, and on the communion Sundays, they'll have, whether it's a plate or a bucket or something with the communion elements, and that way it's just a little bit more of a relational dynamic there. Hey, good morning, would you like your communion? We're gonna participate, communion together in the service. So that is what that role is. Any questions? Any concerns? Almost through this. Good, okay, perfect. The worship center floater greeter, worship center floater, worship center greeter, very similar to the foyer floater. So it's somebody who is intentionally stationed in the worship center, looking for people, waiting for new people to come in, grab a seat. Through my studies, I don't actually have this in here, but through all my readings and things, it was talking about how even if a person has really good interactions with people as they're entering in to the church for the first time, if they show up early and they make their way into the worship center and they sit, and there's like 5-10 minutes before the service starts, they're by themselves. They're alone with their thoughts, and in just a few minutes, they could potentially completely walk themselves off a ledge. You know, like, wow, this was really great, but now what? Now what? There's nothing going on. There's not too many people here yet. This is really awkward. I shouldn't have showed up early. Goodness, I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? All these different thoughts. So they're sitting there alone with their thoughts. We wanna try to cut that off, because if we can, again, just add one more intentional, we throw somebody their way, how much more could that do for somebody, right? So the worship center floater is just that. It's somebody who's just in the worship center, 1 or 2 people, until service starts, walking around, looking intentionally for people who are new to go and introduce themselves the way that we've been talking about. Make sense? Service starts, they go grab their seat. That's it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The worship center, they said the worship center floor, they go inside the worship center?
Mm-hmm. It's before the service begins, yes.
Okay, now what is the difference between the floor center and the foyer floor?
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be like
It's similar, except the foyer person is waiting for people when they first come into the church. They're looking to get them what they need, right? So if they've got kids, hey, it's nice to meet you. I see you've got kids. Can I walk you down to the kids check-in, get them all taken care of? Hey, let's walk back down this way. Can I come with you to grab a cup of coffee? That's what the foyer floater is for. Then once that individual goes into the worship center, then the worship center floater takes over. They are just in the worship center. They are just for the people who are in service, early for service, who may be potentially getting in their heads. Make sense? Pretty simple. All right, so we've got one other position, and that's the safety team, that we're gonna get into in just a minute, but I do wanna highlight just one more aspect that is absolutely crucial, and then we'll talk about safety team, and then we should be wrapping up. I'll see if there's any other questions and things. So we're almost there. Stay with me. For the volunteers who are located primarily in those floater positions that we're talking about, the people who are a little bit more intentional, they're with actually talking to guests, people at the Connect Center, those interior doors potentially, the ones that are for the worship center. There's one other aspect to all of those jobs that is absolutely critical in this whole process, and that's the follow-up. So it's like the video even talked about, it's getting them to meet the pastor after service or before service, or meeting anybody, truthfully. As I said, meeting anybody is huge. But making sure they get a gift. With this though, I want to make sure you guys hear me. There is actually a procedure in order to get people their gifts. And I kind of want to explain how moving forward with all these different positions, how this will kind of work together. So a guest comes in, right? They have encountered with all of these different, they've gotten their coffee, they've made it all the way into the worship center, right? The service has begun. Once traffic is kind of slowed down and our greeters and things, are about done, there should be an element of communication, let me say that. So let's say, I'll go back to my example. So let's say Joe is our foyer floater, right? And he met a great family when they walked in, and they walked in, they sat in the center section, and let's say Jim, again, is the door greeter right there. So service has begun. Joe can go up to Jim and say, hey, do you see that couple sitting right there, or that family sitting right there? They're new. After service, because, side note, some of these positions, again, we're not going to get into all the time frames and everything right now, but some of these positions might be for after service as well. So those door greeters on the inside are probably going to be stationed there as well for after service. So Joe goes up to Jim and he says, hey, that family right there, they're new. We want to get a gift bag in their hands before they leave. Can you make sure, because it's kind of in that section that you're at, right? Working together, teamwork. Would you be able to grab them and bring them over to the Connect Center after service for a bag? He says, sure. So now he knows to keep them on his radar. And so when they walk out, even if they try to escape service early, Jim is there and he says, hey, I don't think I've met you guys. I would love to get you Get over here, come back. I would love to get you guys a gift, even if they're in a hurry. If you say, hey, we've got a $5 Starbucks gift card that we'd love to get you. We want to, would you come with me? I want to get it for you. They'll wait for that, I promise. So here's the thing. Of course, Pastor Dan, my mother, they're usually at the Connect Center after service. So if we can introduce them to them, that is an absolute win. But even if they're not out there yet, this is all this looks like. We bring them over to the Connect Center. Hey, I want to get you this gift. Can I get a little bit of information from you first? This is an exchange process, because giving people gifts without getting anything in return, I'm not trying to sound selfish, that's not where I'm coming from, but that could potentially be us totally dropping the ball, right? If they've had this great experience and we give them a gift and they're feeling really good, but then we have no way to follow up with them and say, hey, we're so glad that you were here. 7 days between Sunday to Sunday, that's a long time, right? So even just one touch point in the course of a week could do huge numbers for somebody, right? So this information exchange is absolutely crucial. And giving the gift at the tail end of service allows us an extra opportunity to get them connected with somebody, because we're intentionally bringing them to the Connect Center. More than likely, there's going to be somebody else there. But even if there's not, we hand them a Connect card, we'll have a stack there. Hey, soften it for them, right? We want to make things as easy as possible. Hey, fill out as much information as you're willing to give. You don't need to fill out this whole thing, but at the very least, if you would give us your name and one form of contact, we'll hook you up with this gift and you'll be on your way. Just soften it for them, because a lot of people, again, they want to get in, they want to get out, they don't want to hand over a whole bunch of information, they don't want to be on some forever long email list that they're never going to be able to get off of, right? So just soften it for them. So that's how these all kind of work together. Does that make sense? We want to make sure we're getting information from people. We want to make sure that we're friendly, helping them return. We want to make sure that we're building the bridge to relationships and connecting them with others. We want to make sure eventually that they're getting involved in other areas. So, with that being said, oh yes, please.
Could I ask questions?
Yes, please.
So, in that, what you just explained, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could that be detrimental, like somebody asking for information, or could we have any more conversation around it?
Say this again. I'm sorry.
When we're giving the gift, like, could that act as a detrimental information for them? Like, hey, you're asking me for information, my information. Would that deter them away, or do you think we can have some ideas on how to approach it? Should we not bring it out and just ask, hey, would you like to leave any information so we can connect back with you later?
That's a very fair question. That's a very fair question. And honestly, that's one that I wrestle with a lot, because I hate it. It's awkward asking people for information. However, it is needed, because follow-ups, I mean, I didn't put any of it in here, but in all of the studies and all the research that I've done, the follow-up and people seeing that we're intentional, we're seeing that we practice what we preach, not just on a Sunday, but hey, we were really glad to see you yesterday in service. We'd love to see you back next Sunday. And leaving it at that. We don't have to bombard them. But to answer your question, number one, it is important, but I am completely all ears for other thoughts and ways on how to do it. We've already kind of been brainstorming a little bit in terms of different ways that we might be able to go about that. Making a condensed Connect card so that they don't see all that information. If they only see 3 options, they're more likely to fill something out. But then we also, obviously right now we already ask people to fill out a Connect card during service, but we're likely going to make that verbiage a little bit more intentional. Hey, if you're new, we have a gift for you at the end of service. If you're new, fill out your Connect card with your name and one form of contact information, bring it back to the Connect Center. We'd love to hook you up. Then, that way, as they're exiting the worship center, Jim can say, hey, I'm not sure that I've met you guys. Do the whole thing. Hey, I see you've got your Connect card. That's awesome. Why don't I take you over there? But, of course, if they don't have their Connect card, that's kind of where it comes into play with the, hey, did you hear the announcement about a Connect card and you can get a gift? I would love to get that for you. So we're thinking things through a little bit, but even still, we're always open to continue to reevaluate and things like that. But
the only reason why I asked is because I think I love the entire flow, but that last piece is, you know, I think that could break or make things if it's not appropriately executed, you know. I just thought.
Yeah, no,
thanks for
the thoughts. No, for sure.
We definitely want to gather information.
Yes, yes, and as I said, this is probably the aspect that I've wrestled with the most, because it can be touchy, for sure. That's why I'm a big fan of downplaying it, right? Like, at the very least, like, hey, you know, you're not going to be on some forever mailing list. You know, we just want to basically thank you for coming at some point this week. You know, just kind of downplaying it a little bit. Sure.
Maybe we can also offer saying, hey, if there's anything that our pastoral staff or us can pray for you, we would love to.
Yep, which is on the Connect card as well.
Yeah,
So
basically that's what the information is about.
yes,
To
exactly.
connect and pray for them, and if they say, I would not like to share information, it's fine. Just name is okay. We'd like to pray for you.
The only reason why I was asking is because, I don't know, if I were in that shoe, right, like, okay, so should I take the gift or not?
Because I'm not leaving my name. Yeah.
That's the reason why I was like.
Yeah. Well, hey, at the very least, if somebody doesn't want to fill out their information, if you got their name, you could fill one out for them. Even if you don't have the contact information, because we do. We want to pray for them, and we want some sort of a record that they were there. So.
Maybe we can say, if you feel comfortable, you can share your information with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you ask for an email address and a text number,
Mhm.
you're not asking for an address where they live.
Exactly.
Don't say phone number, they don't think like, oh no, somebody's gonna call
Mhm.
me, even though it's the same number.
Right. That's a good thought. Yeah, and one or the other. You know, again, like name and one contact. That's all we need. Just one form. Yeah. So anyway, we're continuing to think that through. Absolutely. I appreciate the
Can I
thoughts.
just affirm what Ben
Yes,
said?
please.
That's the approach I take, because I hate that moment also.
Yeah.
Like, even me, I feel awkward about it, but I always take that approach. If you could just fill this out, it's a reminder for me to be praying for you this week, as much as you're comfortable filling out. And Cameron is not saying, don't give them a gift if they don't fill out.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, sorry, too bad. Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Very quickly, we're going to leave here in a second. We're going to let you guys go. But I do want to address the last aspect of this team, which is the safety team. It's a position that we don't take lightly here at Calvary. Everything we've been discussing, it's all wonderful. It's all important. It's all needed. But if we aren't conducting things in a safe environment, we aren't going to get too far. And whether they're new or not, people are looking out for the best intentions of their family, for themselves. If they know that somebody's looking out for them, they are going to feel much more confident coming to our church, as opposed to if we didn't. I mean, the world we live in is scary. So. Being a part of the safety team can look like a few different things. I mean, primarily, Gary's the guy on this, but primarily, I mean, making rounds around the building. Everybody stays in contact with one another, making sure things don't look suspicious, watching. We do have cameras for those of you who don't know, keeping an eye on those things, just making sure that things are flowing the way that they're supposed to. I do want to say, for this position, or for any position, or just in general for you guys to have in your back pocket, there's something that we say around here. It's see something and say something, okay? If you are here on a Sunday morning, or any other day of the week for that matter, and you see something even a little bit fishy, you just see like a weird conversation taking place, or there's a car out in the parking lot that looks a little bit sketch or whatever, it's vital to say something in the moment. Because even if it ends up being nothing, we want to make sure that we're doing our part to, again, ensure the safety and protection of our Calvary family. So if you see something, of course, find somebody who's on the safety team, find somebody in charge who would know what to do, and we can get in contact with the safety team or whatever that looks like. But in the moment is crucial, because if it does end up being something and we don't say something, ouch. But even if it doesn't end up being something, we want to make sure that we're on the right edge of things, right? And I mean, saying something if it happens before service and saying something after service, we can't do anything at that point. Calling the office the next day to report something, we can't do anything about it at that point. Saying something the next week, we can't do anything about it. So just across the board, if you see anything, please say something. Even if you think things are fine, we'd rather be safe than sorry. All right, I think that's about all I got. I do want to just, before you guys leave, point you to the half sheet that you guys got at the beginning of this meeting. This is the interest form. Again, if you are not interested at this time, you just wanted to kind of come, catch some insights, catch the flavor of what we're doing, I would at least like to know that you were here. So if you wouldn't mind just jotting your name at the top, that would be great. But if you are, you'll see the sections there, but if you're already involved in a ministry and you would like to continue, just kind of find the ministry you're in, find that row, check off the box. If you are interested but you have more questions and you want me to get you connected with the head of the safety team, for example, you don't want to jump in quite yet, but you want to get connected and find out a little bit more information about what that might look like, you can check that box. And then the last one is you're all in. You're like, I've heard what I need to hear and I want to be a part of this ministry. That's that last column there. So if you're interested in some but not all, you can leave blank ones that you're just like, I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I mean, just know, feel free to fill that out. You can just leave them on the tables when you're done. I'll pick them up afterwards. But please know, I mean, we're praying for you. We're, as a staff, not just me, we're praying for you. We want what's best for you. And this is a very non, what's the word I'm looking for? Yes, high impact, low commitment ministry. So you could serve once a month, you could serve once every 6 months, you can serve every week if you wanted. If you're involved in other ministries, a lot of these things don't interfere with that. Some of them don't interfere with the service at all. Some of them, like the safety team, does tend to run through the service because, we got to have eyes on everything at all times. But again, I mean, if you are willing to do that even once a month, it goes a long way. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. If you have any other questions.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
I didn't have the opportunity before to share when Lisa they were showing. I am also fairly new. You guys know that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I just love the entire presentation because I think it played out exactly with my story too. Like I came in because Vision produced me.
Yes.
Because I was looking for a church.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, why don't you come to Calvary? So I came in, and I know Jim and John, they're always there. And
Yes.
then I met Gary. It's exactly how you were describing it. That's exactly how it happened for me.
That's awesome.
And then once you came in, then I was in love with preaching.
Mm.
And I think it closed the loop for me after I met the pastor.
Yeah.
Like
that's awesome.
After everything was done and said, then said and done.
Yeah.
I came back and I met Pastor Dan and Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was like the exact same words that how they were saying, right? Make the guests feel like family.
Right.
And that's the feeling that was created for me. And then I got introduced to the Wednesday night. Then I met Mark, Tony, and
that's so cool.
all those guys.
So you're a testament to this, that it works. I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So then to the next steps. So.
Yes, I love it.
I mean, you didn't have to do this for me.
Yes. All right. Well, yeah, if you fill that out, go ahead and leave it behind. I'll be getting you in contact with the leaders of each of those respected ministries probably in the next week. So keep an eye out on your email for that. But if for nothing else, I mean, appreciate you guys being here. Please take your notes with you. It'll make me so sad if you don't.
Hey, it's our hope and our prayer that these videos will encourage you in your faith every single day. If they're doing so, how about you like, you share, you subscribe? Hey, and if you're ever in the Northeast Ohio area, stop by Calvary Assembly of God. Sundays, worship with us. Let's connect with God, His presence, and His people together.